right, we're just pulling out on Onaway and we're heading back towards home. And I'm riding with a couple VFR 800s up here, and they are rocking. I should catch up to them. So anyways, I wanted to do a do-over. A do-over. That's when it's not an overdo, it's more like a do-over. When I had my Cena Bluetooth with a camera, the audio was absolutely horrible. So what I've decided to do is redo the Triumph Trophy SE review. And gas mileage, I am getting pretty regularly around 22 kilometers per liter. And you know, the bike has a lot of power, but it's not it's not your Supermoto GT or nothing like that. It's more of a, I don't know, it's like a sport tour that has the performance of a VFR 800. So it's pretty snappy, and I'll run this quarter-mile specs up on the screen here right away. It just seems like the torque is always there. Sometimes you don't even think about what gear you're in. You just hit the throttle. Like right now I'm in 6th gear, and it just sucks you back in your seat and you're gone. You go from 120 to 140 in moments flat. And I also wanted to review it a little bit against a Honda Goldwing, and the only reason I do that is because I owned a Honda Goldwing for 3 years, and here I am driving the Triumph Trophy, and I had sold my Goldwing. So it's kind of like, okay, so what made me do that? And really what it came down to is the Goldwing was just a little bit bigger bike than I think that I wanted. And if I did a lot of touring, I would have stayed with the Goldwing hands down, because for the passenger there's no comparison between just about anything I've ever sat on. Like, the biggest problem with the Goldwing with passengers is the passengers falling asleep, and that's always a bit of an issue. I guess you could always bungee strap your passenger in, but like, they're just amazing bikes. They really are. And the Goldwing has amazing torque, down low, up high. There you go, buddy. We ended up doing a lot of riding in the interior of British Columbia, Canada, and that's going to be a tour that we're going to be doing actually fairly soon here. But there's tons and tons of real sharp bends in the road, and with the Goldwing, I was touching the floorboards probably every 15 minutes on those roads, just leaning over, and you know what, I think that Goldwing could have even went over even past those floorboards. But it was just an unnerving sound, an unnerving feeling, just knowing that you're that close. And yet I was seeing the guys with the sport tours, as you talk to them, and they're never touching the pegs. They might be touching their toes or their boot on the corners a little bit, but but it just seemed like the sport tours were taking the corners better. So, you only live once, and I figured, well, hey, let's sell the Goldwing, let's buy a Triumph Trophy. So I did buy this Triumph Trophy, and I'll tell you, it's surprising how easy this Triumph Trophy is to ride. Like it's so flickable, a lot more flickable than the Goldwing. And there again, not to say the Goldwing's bad, like it's amazing, but the Sport Tour or the Triumph Trophy, whenever you look at the reviews, they love how it handles. And yeah, I gotta agree with them. Like, it's surprisingly amazing how well the Triumph Trophy corners and handles. And it rocks. It rocks. When you kick her down to 4th gear or even 3rd and hit the throttle, you are it's getting your attention. So really liked how the Triumph Trophy handled. Now when we're heading to BC, we do some days that are probably in around that 650 to 700 kilometer day. And you know, sometimes you're going through the mountain passes and stuff like that. You're not going really fast because the national parks, they got a pretty slow speed limit on them. So you're in the saddle for 7 hours plus. And other than gas stations and a little coffee break, you're back in the saddle and you're going. So the positioning, how I'm sitting in the Triumph Trophy is just such a natural position. I don't find my legs get cramped or nothing like that. And don't get me wrong, I mean, after you've been riding for a while, sometimes you just stand up to straighten your underwear out, you know. But other than that, you're not standing up because you're all that uncomfortable. And I'd said it in my original post that had horrible audio, is that I find that the Triumph Trophy, to me, my opinion, is 90% as comfortable as the Honda Goldwing. And yet the sitting position is totally different. It's my arm position is very similar, but what my legs and my oh, hang on, we gotta do something wacky here. My legs are not spread out as much, like it's a lot thinner saddle. And that's really comfortable. My legs, they tuck right in, right? Like they're tucked in. They're tucked right in under the tank. I gotta say that I've got almost, like very close, the same wind protection and weather protection as I did with the Goldwing. The Triumph Trophy has a real wide front end to it, and it really takes the buffeting completely right out of play. And because the Triumph Trophy does have a stereo, if you just want to listen to the stereo, the audio is excellent, and you can listen to talk radio at 70 miles an hour, no problem. And then your windshield, like I can bring my windshield way up. So that's its tallest position. I am looking now probably 4 inches down from the top of the window. That's where I'm looking. And I just like to have it so I'm just looking basically over the windshield, somewhere in there. Well, I'm looking at underneath the window a little bit, but this is a technology bike. So, you know, not only can I see my fuel economy, how many kilometers I've got left to a tank of fuel, what my average miles per gallon is. I can shift from 2 up to single pylon, single rider, and sport mode for suspension, normal mode, touring mode. There's just a lot of adjustments that I can do. Headlights, I can raise them up and down, which I actually do that. It's kind of neat. At nighttime when it's dark, you can just fine-tune that headlight perfectly to where you need it. I have my tire pressure, tells me exactly what my tire pressure is. I put on a drink holder, and that just bolted right on. That was easy. I stuck on my phone holder. That was easy. And I've got power outlets all over the bike, like middle of the bike, back of the bike, in my back box. I got a power outlet in the front. So one thing that we do a little bit on our moto vlog is we always like to have a little bit of an inspirational message, and we usually going to try to put that at the end for, you know, we're not here to preach to you guys if you don't want to hear it, and you know, we want to make it valuable to listen to what we have to say about bikes and things like that. But we also have an inspirational message that we'd like to share for a few minutes as well. So other than that, we'll be tying in our message here right away. But if you're leaving us, tune in next time, guys. It was just an absolute pleasure being able to share with you a little bit. Today's motoblog, we want to talk about the glory of God. The glory. The glory. A lot of times we think about the glory to be, I don't know, let's say we're in the mountains and we come over a hill and there's a couple elk eating in the meadow, and there's a lake and the mountains and the snow is glistening off the mountains, and we smell just the smell of the mountain air. And a lot of people think, you know, that's the glory of God. And it is, because God is all things good. And there is that glory. But I read in the Bible the glory of God. Man, I think about Moses when he went to the mountain to speak to God. And he had the Israelites get prepared. They had to be sanctified. So if you read in Exodus, in the Word, it says that they washed themselves and they prepared themselves and they anointed themselves, and then they came to the mountain, and then the glory of the Lord came upon that mountain. And you know, when the glory of the Lord came upon that mountain, there was a dark, thick cloud, as in like smoke, that came over the mountain. And there was lightning and thunder, and I'm pretty sure there was even an earthquake. And that was the glory of the Lord. And then Moses went up on the mountain, and the Israelites, they just yelled to Moses, but they couldn't go on. They couldn't even stand it. They said, if we carry on, we're going to die. And you know, the glory of God is power. It's power. We're talking the God of the universe. Wherever Jesus went, he healed the sick, he raised the dead. And we're going to be talking, not this session, but in future motovlogs, we're going to be talking about miracles that I've seen. How God has shown up and have healed the sick. It's really neat. But it's the truth. These are testimonies I'm going to share. So you'll have to stay tuned for those. Well, thank you for checking in. And this is the Triumph Night